Every now and then, a very frustrating game appears during review. Not because it's disastrous, but because it gives you glimpses of genius, then slaps you in the face after just 2 minutes. These are exactly the conflicting feelings you experience after finishing Feast of Reincarnation. Everyone is now asking the traditional question, is the game worth $60? But that question is very boring. The real question is, how can a game with all these potentials seem like it was designed by two studios that do not communicate with each other? The game does not suffer from one fatal flaw, but rather from 1,000 small annoying details that drag it down and prevent it from being legendary.
Let's start with the easiest thing to praise, the combat. Because against all odds, this is where Beast of Reincarnation actually brings its A game. I'll be honest, given the developer's pedigree, I went into this expecting functional combat, something basic to carry me through the narrative. Instead, I found myself actively hunting down every Nushi on the map. For anyone uninitiated, Nushi are a boss tier malefacts, corrupted guardians tied to the world's collapse. And Emma isn't fighting them with your typical mindless action game moveset. She wields a katana that violently punishes aggression and heavily rewards surgical precision. Every enemy has a distinct rhythm, every attack has intent, and every hit you take is entirely your own fault. There is no endless button mashing here, the game constantly asks you one brutal question. Were you actually paying attention or were you just hoping for the best? If the answer is hoping for the best, you're dead. And that's exactly why a successful parry feels so incredibly good. It isn't just a flashy animation, it's proof that you actually outsmarted the fight. Too many modern action RPGs confuse screen-shaking visual chaos with satisfying combat. Beast of Reincarnation doesn't make that mistake. It understands that nobody remembers damage numbers flying off an enemy. They remember the adrenaline of a parry at 1% health. The bosses deserve even more credit. They force you to slow down, memorize patterns, and adapt, instead of just grinding stats until the fight becomes a joke. Every victory feels earned, not handed out like a participation trophy. Then we have Ku. When I first saw this creature in the reviews, I assumed he existed for one sole purpose: to fill toy store shelves and look cute in marketing trailers before disappearing into the background during actual gameplay. Thankfully, the developers proved me wrong. Ku is organically woven into exploration, traversal, combat, and environmental puzzles. He isn't trailing 3 steps behind you just because a narrative designer said so. He's there because the core gameplay loop actually requires his existence. Balancing a companion without turning them into an annoying escort mission is a razor-thin line. Most games introduce a companion gimmick and completely forget about it 4 hours later. Beast of Reincarnation doesn't. Ku remains useful from the opening title to the end credits, easily making him one of the best parts of the entire experience. Now let's talk about the world, because this is where my optimism slowly started to erode. My first impression, I was completely sold. Overgrown, abandoned cities, nature aggressively reclaiming concrete, and collapsed highways disappearing into the ruins of a post-apocalyptic Japan. Visually and artistically, Game Freak hit a home run. The world tells a haunting story without uttering a single word. The problem is what happens after the honeymoon phase ends. During the first few hours, every side path invites curiosity. You ask yourself, what's hidden over there? A secret boss, a legendary weapon? But as the hours roll on, reality hits. 9 times out of 10, your reward for climbing a breathtaking, ruinous skyscraper is 3 rusty crafting nuts and a scrap of metal you'll forget about in 10 seconds. A beautiful world isn't enough if it treats the player like a glorified garbage collector. Once you realize the game isn't going to reward your curiosity with anything meaningful, you simply stop exploring. Exploration shouldn't feel like clearing items off a chore list. It should feel like a discovery. And unfortunately, that's where the world loses its magic. Which brings us to the narrative, the part of the game I had the absolute least patience for. The frustrating thing isn't that the story is completely terrible, it's how effortlessly it wastes a brilliant premise. You have a collapsed civilization, nature devouring human history, and a creeping corruption. That setup should pull you in instantly, and for an hour or two it does. But once the plot actually starts moving, it settles into an emotional flat line. Take Emma. On paper, she's a purifier, bearing the emotional weight of a dying world, a phenomenal narrative hook. In execution, she has the personality and emotional range of a damn piece of cardboard. She fits the bleak atmosphere, quiet, stoic, focused, but that's literally all there is to her. By the time the credits rolled, I understood what her job was, but I didn't care about her as a person. The world constantly gives you reasons to look around, but the story almost never gives you a reason and to care about the people inside it. Another area where the game plays it infuriatingly safe is character progression. You unlock new abilities, your health bar expands, your attack numbers get bigger, but boosting statistics is not the same thing as evolving gameplay. In the best action RPGs, getting a major upgrade fundamentally changes how you approach a fight. Beast of Reincarnation rarely takes that risk. Most upgrades simply make you 5% better at doing the exact same thing you were doing 10 hours ago. Eventually, opening the skill tree stopped exciting me, not because the UI was bad, but because I already knew what was waiting for me. Another minor statistical buff before sending me right back into a fight that plays identically to the last one. This brings me to the fundamental issue with Beast of Reincarnation. It doesn't have broken combat, a hideous world, or an unplayable campaign. He has a severe identity crisis. It feels like every major system was built by a completely different team that refused to talk to the others. The combat feels like a tight premium action title, the exploration feels unfinished. The art direction is top tier, the progression is playing it safe. The world is constantly screaming, "Look how atmospheric and grand I am," while the underlying systems quietly whisper, "Almost," is the words that defined my entire 20-hour playthrough. Almost a masterpiece, almost unforgettable, almost a contender for Game of the Year, but almost doesn't cut it when the cracks are this visible. The technical performance is just another victim of this inconsistency. If you're playing on console, you'll get a mostly acceptable experience minus some frame drops when the screen gets chaotic. If you're on PC, Godspeed. Random micro stutters, frame pacing hiccups, and shader compilation stops are waiting for you. It's not unplayable, but it's a constant, irritating reminder that this game was pushed out of the oven a few months too early. After all of that critique, my final answer is surprisingly yes. Just don't buy it for the reasons a marketing team wants you to. Don't buy it expecting the next Elden Ring because it isn't. Don't buy it expecting Sekiro level perfection or you're going to be disappointed. Buy it because the combat genuinely slaps. Buy it because the Nushi boss fights are a blast and the art direction is genuinely impressive for a studio stepping out of its comfort zone. Just manage your expectations. This isn't a hidden masterpiece buried by bad reviews, nor is it a disaster disguised by good trailers. It's a genuinely solid 7/10 game that constantly reminds you of how incredible it could have been. Calling Beast of Reincarnation good is accurate, but it misses the bigger picture. This game isn't important because it's a masterpiece, it's important because of who made it. For decades, Game Freak has been chained to the comfortable, highly profitable shadow of Pokemon. This is the first time in a very long time they've taken a real risk to build something dark, complex, and mature. They didn't reinvent the genre, but they proved something far more valuable. They are capable of evolving. Beast of Reincarnation isn't the final destination, it feels like the foundation for a much better sequel, and if Game Freak actually listens to the right critics from this release, their next game might actually be the masterpiece this one tried to be. That's my breakdown of Beast of Reincarnation. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Game Freak officially proved they can make real action games, or is this just another case of great potential held back by messy execution? Let me know in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the honest critique, hit subscribe for more raw game reviews, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Versi from Gameverse. Peace out.